Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing sort of a follow-up book review to one of my previous ones, which was What's Left of Me by Kat Zhang. Today I'm going to be reviewing the second and third book in the Hyrbrid trilogies, so that is Once We Were and then Echoes of Us. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of what I thought about these, whether I thought they lived up to the first book, so on and so on. I will link somewhere on screen in the little card and down below my original review of What's Left of Me if you want to see that. So we will first start with Once We Were. So this finishes straight off of the last book, where some of them have just escaped the institute they were in. Something like that. So that's where the last book leaves off. I will read you the blurb on the back. It says, as the recessive soul, Eva wasn't supposed to survive this long. Lingering in the body she shares with her sister soul, Addie. When the government discovered the truth, they tried to cure the girls, but Eva and Addie escaped before the doctors could strip Eva's soul away. Now, fugitives, they take shelter with a hybrid resistance movement. Despite growing tensions between Eva and Addie, they both throw themselves into the cause. Soon they've joined a splinter group, willing to resort to questionable methods. But as Addie and Eva fall ever deeper in their plans, the girls must decide how far they're willing to go to fight for their new lives. What they thought was the solution to their problems just might be the thing that destroys everything, including their bond to each other. So that's quite intriguing. You straight away find out that they're going to find a sort of another sort of rebellion group, and they're going to join them. So this one sort of follows them with how they're dealing, being on the outside now. There's still the threat because obviously they're still a hybrid, but they're surrounding themselves with loads of other hybrids, and they plan to actually bomb and take down this other institute that's being built, in hopes that that will knock the government down a bit and send them a message in a way that they're going to fight for themselves. So this book covers a few different new themes and things that the girls have to consider now that that you didn't really think about towards the end of the first book. For instance, they've been away from their family for about 2 months now, so the girls are obviously wondering, what are the parents thinking? Do they still think they're in an institute? Are they trying to look for them? Do they still even care about them? What's happened to their brother? Has he had his transplant? Things like that. So that's all sort of running through their heads. As well as obviously Eva becomes more romantically linked with Ryan, and Eva becomes more romantically linked with someone as well. So the girls are having to try and deal with that, and dealing with each other being in romantic situations and having to sort of either share those experiences or learning to go under and let the other one be on their own for a bit. So that was another thing that they had to sort of deal with. I will say I think this is my least favourite book out of the three. I didn't really enjoy it. I did give it 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I always think the middle book in a trilogy can sometimes be that way because you're just sort of waiting for stuff to happen, and sometimes it can feel like they're just sort of, the author's just filling a gap in a way. But yeah, I really just read this to get through it and get to the third book. I never like to sort of leave a series half finished, so I wouldn't have just put it down and thought I'm not going to read it again unless I totally just didn't connect with the book. Yeah, I just thought the whole resistance thing, and there was a lot of new hybrid characters that came into it, and you start to get a bit confused with all their different double names. That can be a little bit hard at times to sort of keep up with. So that is the second book, and on to the third book, which is Echoes of Us. I felt this was a little bit better than the second book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So obviously none of these really were as good as the first book, which I mentioned in my first review that I was hoping they would live up to the first book, but they really didn't for me. And sometimes that's a little bit expected of trilogies. So once again, I will read you the back of the book. So it says, all Eva wanted was the chance to be herself, but in the Americas, being hybrid, sharing your body with a second soul, is not tolerated past childhood. Eva and her sister soul Addie worry they'll never be able to live freely. Now there are whispers of a revolution, and people are beginning to rethink the hybrid's mistreatment. But will it be enough to change their country? Then Marion, an ambitious reporter, offers Eva and Addie a daring proposal. If they go undercover and film the wretched conditions of a hybrid institution, she will not only rescue them, she'll find a way to free Jackson, the boy Addie loves. It's a tremendous risk, but if the girls succeed, they could tip the scales towards hybrid freedom. The price they might pay, however, is higher than they could have imagined. So, again, a very intriguing blurb. And I did think the third book was, like I said, a little bit better than the second. So Addie and Eva meet this girl called Marion, like it says on the back, and she offers a proposal to send Addie and Eva into the Hans Institute, which we sort of hear about in the second book, because she looks very much like this girl called Darcy, and they want to switch the girls and give Addie the chance to film secretly what goes on in the institute, and she says if she does that, she knows where Jackson is, she'll free Jackson, which obviously is what Addie wants to do. Eva's a bit reserved because she doesn't have that connection with Jackson, but she knows she's going to have to do it for her sister because her sister's already given up so much for her. So they go into the institute, they find out how sort of brutal they can be compared to the one they were in before. This is a lot more harsh. So that was sort of interesting to see. But obviously things don't go smoothly, and Addie and Eva get found out that they're obviously not this girl called Darcy, and they're kept sort of imprisoned in this room, and they drug the girls, and that makes Addie disappear. And Eva's like starting to get worried. She's like, days are passing, weeks are passing, when is Addie going to come back? Is she ever going to come back? And that is sort of the cliffhanger that you're left on. You really do think that Addie isn't going to come back. So yeah, like I said, if you are in the middle of reading this trilogy, maybe stop now, because there might be some spoilers towards the end. But yeah, if you're on the second book, push through it, because the third book does get better. But if you're thinking of overall reading the trilogy, it's sort of a hard one. It's not one I would hugely recommend because you're investing yourself in the 3-book trilogy. Obviously the first book is really, really good and I recommend that, but then you've sort of got to follow it up with the conclusions, and it's like, do you want to spend that time reading them? But again, it's like everyone's different individual opinion. I personally didn't like the last two as much, but you might like them more. If you go on Goodreads, you can read a lot of people's reviews and stuff and see what they thought of the books. Obviously this is just my opinion. So towards the end of the book we see Addie and Eva, because obviously Addie comes back, gets reunited with their family again. There's initially a bit of like a tension between her and her mum and her and her brother, because they've been away so long. Meanwhile, the president of America dies, and Jensen, the evil doctor president type person, is going to try and blame Addie for it, because he's already thrown out this like advert that she's a threat and that people should look out for her. So he's going to try and blame her for killing him, but she ends up filming it all on her ring anyway. And she meets the new president and he tells her everything's fine because they know that the old president was just ill, blah blah blah. In the end, it was just a very sort of so-so ending. It was a little bit expected. Everything just rounded up a bit too nicely in a way. And I don't know what I wanted from the ending, but it just didn't fulfill my wants, if you get what I mean. So yeah, that's my little review on Once We Were and Echoes of Us by Kat Zhang. If you've read the series, let me know what you think. Did you think the second and third book weren't as good as the first? Yeah, leave me your comments below and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!